Why you feel lonely around people who love you. Visual, empty room with sunlight. There's a strange kind of loneliness. That doesn't happen when you're alone. It happens around people who care about you. Friends, family, a partner sitting right beside you. They talk to you. They laugh with you. They say they love you. And somehow you still feel emotionally invisible. Not rejected, not abandoned, just unseen, like there's a wall between you and everyone else that nobody notices except you. And the strangest part is this: you can't even explain why. Because from the outside, your life might look completely normal. So why does your brain still feel alone, even in the middle of connection? The answer usually starts much earlier than you think. Person sitting quietly during a group dinner. Most people think loneliness is caused by isolation, but psychology shows something more painful. The brain doesn't measure loneliness by the number of people around you. It measures loneliness by emotional congruence. In simple words, how much of your real inner world feels safe to reveal. That changes everything, because you can spend years around people without ever feeling psychologically known. You learn how to stay socially acceptable. You learn which emotions create tension, which opinions get ignored, which parts of you make people uncomfortable. So slowly, without realizing it, you begin editing yourself. Not lying, just filtering. You become easier to love, easier to manage, easier to predict. And after enough years, something strange happens. People start loving the version of you that survives socially, not necessarily the version that feels real internally. Mirror reflection slightly delayed. This creates a hidden split in identity. The external self becomes functional. The internal self becomes private. And the brain starts treating connection like performance. That's why some conversations leave you exhausted, even when they were pleasant. Your nervous system wasn't relaxing. It was monitoring, watching your tone, your reactions, your expressions, trying to maintain emotional safety. Cognitive science calls this self-monitoring. The brain constantly predicts social outcomes to reduce risk. But when this becomes chronic, you stop experiencing connection directly. You experience connection through management. And management is lonely. Visual, slow-moving light patterns. You can see this in small moments. Someone asks how you're doing, and before answering honestly, your brain quickly scans. Will this make things awkward? Will they understand? Will I sound dramatic? So instead, you say, I'm fine. Not because you're lying, because your nervous system learned that emotional exposure feels dangerous. Sometimes this starts in childhood. Not always through obvious trauma, sometimes through subtle emotional patterns. Maybe your feelings were dismissed quickly. Maybe vulnerability made other people uncomfortable. Maybe love was present, but emotional attunement wasn't. There's a difference. A parent can care deeply about you and still fail to emotionally see you, and the brain remembers that distinction for years. Child sitting near a window during rain. Attachment psychology explains this carefully. Your brain builds internal maps of connection very early, not through words, through repeated emotional experiences. If emotional honesty repeatedly leads to discomfort, criticism, or disconnection, the brain adapts, not to destroy connection, to preserve it. That's the important part. This loneliness is usually not a defect. It's an adaptation. Your nervous system learned being fully seen might threaten belonging. So the brain creates a compromise. Stay connected, but partially hidden. And at first, this works. You avoid conflict. You become likable, easygoing. Maybe people even describe you as emotionally mature. But internally, another feeling quietly grows. No one really knows me, because they only know the edited version. Visual. Person scrolling phone late at night. This is where the contradiction becomes painful. You crave deeper connection, but deeper connection requires emotional exposure, and your brain associates exposure with danger. So, the same nervous system that wants closeness also prevents it. This creates a loop. You feel lonely, you hide, more people know less of you, loneliness increases, and eventually, you start believing the loneliness is your identity. But it isn't. It's a protective system running automatically, like a smoke alarm that became too sensitive. Even safe closeness starts triggering caution. Neuroscience calls this predictive processing. Your brain is constantly using the past to predict the present. It does not ask, what's true right now? It asks, what kept me emotionally safe before? That's why emotionally distant habits can survive. Even inside healthy relationships, the brain prioritizes familiarity over fulfillment, even painful familiarity. Abstract brain animation. Imagine your mind like a house with motion sensor lights. If movement once led to danger, the sensors become hyperactive. Now, even gentle footsteps trigger alarms. That's what emotional hypervigilance feels like. Not dramatic fear, subtle tension. A constant emotional brace inside your body. And over time, you stop sharing spontaneously. You begin rehearsing yourself internally before speaking. That's exhausting for the brain, because real connection requires psychological presence, not constant self-editing. So how do you slowly reverse this pattern? Without forcing fake vulnerability? Not through sudden confidence. Not through opening up more. The brain rarely changes through pressure. It changes through repeated safety experiences. Visual notebook with one sentence written. The first principle is this: stop performing emotional perfection. Not dramatically, quietly. Instead of giving polished answers all the time, practice giving slightly more real ones. If someone asks how your week was, don't instantly summarize the acceptable version. Try one honest sentence. I've actually been mentally tired lately. Small honesty matters because the brain updates safety gradually. In behavioral psychology, this is called exposure with regulation. Tiny safe experiences teach the nervous system visibility is survivable. Not all vulnerability needs to be deep. It just needs to be real. Coffee cup beside an unread message. Second, pay attention to where your personality disappears. Certain environments activate automatic masking. You become agreeable, careful, emotionally flat. Notice it without judging yourself. Awareness interrupts autopilot. The brain cannot rewire patterns it never consciously notices. One useful question is, what am I protecting right now? Not fixing, not analyzing endlessly, just noticing. Maybe you're protecting yourself from embarrassment, rejection, misunderstanding. Once the fear becomes visible, it becomes less controlling. Person walking alone at night. Third, create connection before creating explanation. A lot of people over-explain themselves emotionally because they fear being misunderstood. But deep connection often grows through shared presence first. Small moments, sitting quietly with someone, sending an honest message without rewriting it 10 times, admitting uncertainty without apologizing for it. These experiences calm the nervous system more effectively than intellectual self-analysis. Because emotionally, the brain learns through experience, not theory. Waves moving slowly. Fourth, separate loneliness from worth. This matters deeply. When loneliness lasts a long time, the brain starts personalizing it. If nobody fully sees me, maybe I'm hard to love. But loneliness is often a signal mismatch, not evidence of unworthiness. A radio can fail to receive a signal without being broken. Your nervous system simply adapted to emotional caution, and caution can be softened, not erased overnight. Softened. Visual, dim hallway, slowly filling with light. Finally, allow relationships to update. One hidden problem with protective identities is that they freeze people in old roles. The calm one, the strong one, the easy one. And sometimes people around you genuinely don't know there's more beneath that surface. Not because they don't care, because your nervous system became skilled at hiding complexity. So the process is gradual. You teach people who you are by letting small pieces become visible consistently, not dramatically all at once. Consistency rewires trust, both theirs and yours. Open window, moving softly in the wind. In the end, this loneliness is rarely about being unloved. It's about emotional distance between your inner self and your expressed self. The greater the gap, the lonelier the experience becomes, even around love. So maybe healing is not becoming a completely new person. Maybe it's reducing the distance, a little at a time, between what you feel and what you allow to be seen. Because connection is not created when people simply love you. Connection is created when your nervous system finally believes it no longer has to hide to deserve that love. Chertowal, empty room with warm evening sunlight. And maybe that's why this kind of loneliness hurts so much. Not because nobody cares about you, but because some part of you has been waiting quietly for years to feel emotionally safe enough to fully arrive.